Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, it is day, 3 of the Arbites being out, which means we've done lots more testing, which means it's time to update some of the builds. And as you can see, we've done quite a few of the Arbites achievements as well. We've got ourselves a nice, stupid looking hat, but also, more importantly, Zaris has got herself some lovely armour. I think we all know that is the most important thing. So, let's jump in and see what we're using. So this is a castigation build, and there are a few options for using this because I've been jumping between them and they all seem to work quite well. So first of all is the Arbites Shock Maul. Mobilities are dump stat, everything else is at 80. Damage, finesse, crowd control and penetration, lol. As for the perks, we're going with Flak and Carapace, Flak being the most prevalent armor type in the game and Carapace just helping us beat through those maulers and crushers. Blessings wise, we're still using Execution and High Voltage. They seem to be giving us the most bang for our buck at the moment, seeing as everything we do staggers and the weapon just, electrocutes everything. It's not like the old shock maces. Every swing, this thing electrocutes. And for the shotgun, we're using the Exterminator shotgun with damage, ammo, stopping power and stability at 80 and mobility being our dump. So we have changed over the perks on this a little bit. At the moment, we are trying now with Flak and Maniac, as it does help bring down monstrosities using the unyielding, but they're so infrequent, and because we're getting the damage from other places in the talents, it seems more well-rounded to switch over to Flak now, which is going to give us, again, most prevalent armor type in the game, so it's going to give us the most damage against the most enemies. And Maniac because we want to be able to snipe down those specials as quickly as possible. Blessings wise, we're still using full bore and Fire Frenzy. We're just stacking as much damage as we can. Now, before we get to the Curios, I did say there was a few options for the melee, and we will jump into that. So, with this build, you can pretty much use whatever the hell you want. So here is the Arbites Shock Maul that I'm currently using. Here is the Crusher, with defense being the dump, perk-wise Flak and Carapace, and blessings, Skull Crusher and Slaughterer. You basically build this the same way you would on the Zealot. But if you want something a little bit more defensive, you can always go for the Shock Maul and Suppression Shield, with damage, power output, crowd control and penetration, lol, being your main modifiers and defense being your dump. And that's because defense doesn't really give us much. Perk-wise, Flak and Carapace as always, because of, see above. Blessings wise, you can go with High Voltage and Opportunist for more damage, or you can change that up. Let me just jump into that. And you can go for, maybe instead of Opportunist, you can go for one of the defensive ones like Confident Strikes, just giving you toughness back on chained hits, which is a nice way of just farming through and keeping yourself alive. As for the range weapon, you can use whatever the hell you want as well. Exterminator shotgun is just my favourite at the moment, but the bolt gun works just as well. With damage, reload speed, collateral and stability being your main and mobility being your dump. Do not ever dump out reload speed because you will be there forever reloading this goddamn thing. Perk-wise, Unyielding and Maniac because this thing does really blow through bosses, so I'm keeping that with the Unyielding. Blessings wise, Pinning Fire and Fire Frenzy. I have had reports that Pinning Fire is slightly broken at the moment, but a lot of people are saying it's broken in a lot of different ways, so I cannot substantiate those reports at the moment. Just be aware Pinning Fire might not work as is written. And then we've got the Subductor Short Pistol and Riot Shield, a very fun little weapon. Maybe not as powerful as the other two, but still quite amusing to use. Perk-wise, we've got with Flak and Maniac because, again, most prevalent armor type in the game, Maniac to get rid of those specials. Blessings, Pinpoint Targeting and Full Bore seem to work pretty well on this, especially with the special action on the Short Pistol and Riot Shield, is when you're aiming down sights, you're actually bracing the shield and aiming over the top of it. So that's giving you a lot of defense, and it's also allowing us to use Pinpoint Targeting to quite our advantage. Right, Curios now. I am slowly working my way to getting max level rolled Curios, but I still am missing one, which is very annoying. This is where some of you may disagree strongly with me. I'm going for 3 toughness Curios with toughness, stamina regen, and damage resistance gunners. And on the third one is toughness, damage resistance gunners, and toughness regeneration speed. Now, the reason I'm going for stamina regen is because this is a very block push heavy class. Not heavy enough to use an actual stamina Curio, but the regen is quite important, especially when you think most of our abilities and weapons have got a shield involved. And the worst of the worst is, there are so many poxbursters at the moment, if you have no stamina, you cannot block push it away, you will explode. But as I said, this is day 3 of the patch, and things are still very much in flux and testing, so this may change. None of this is, engraved in stone. Right, enough of me talking about weapons and things, let's get into the talents. So, we are starting off up here with Hammer of Judgment, plus 10% melee attack speed for 3 seconds on hitting 3 or more enemies with a melee attack. Then down into Force of Will, replenish 10% toughness on staggering melee attack, which is most of your attacks. Up close, replenish 5% toughness on close kill, this is both ranged and melee. Into Man and Cyber Mastiff, replenish 5% toughness per second while within 8 meters of your Cyber Mastiff. Walk it off, spending 1 stamina, replenishes 15% toughness over 3 seconds. Toughness damage reduction here, and into 10% melee damage boost. Now, here is where you can basically pick what you want. The Voltic Shock Mine is very good, but it is very, very clunky. Once I finish the achievement for using this, I will be switching over to Remote Detonation, because it gives you 3 charges. You don't have to keep finding grenades, they just refresh every 60 seconds. And it's very powerful in its ability to stagger monstrosities. And I'm just not a big fan of the Arbites grenade at the moment. It just feels like a bit of a meh compared to the others, but if you like it, take it. Then we've got our Arbitrator Armor for 25 toughness, into Ammo Belt for plus 25% ammo capacity, and then into Imposing Force, gain plus 25% damage resistance for 5 seconds after killing an elite or special. Then over to the right here, Concussive, melee weak spot hits make the enemy count staggered. Suppression Protocol, hitting 3 or more enemies with an attack grants you 20% toughness damage reduction for 5 seconds. Raking Descent, you and your allies in coherency deal an additional 10% damage versus staggered enemies. And then Plasteel Plates for 25 toughness, and then into Unleashed Brutality. Your Cyber Mastiff prioritizes elites and specialist enemies and deals plus 25% damage to them. Now, again here, you can pretty much pick whatever the hell you want. Although going this way does mean you have to use an extra point you will have to take out from somewhere else. I just prefer Unleashed Brutality. Then into Cleave Boost, and then into Castigator's Stance. Enter the Castigator Stance for 10 seconds, during which you have 15% movement speed, 80% reduced damage taken, and 100% reduced movement penalties from actions, but you cannot sprint. On activation, you replenish all toughness. This thing is wildly overpowered, and I love it. Not only can you use this offensively, as in you're wading into a big group of mobs and you just want to kick the absolute crap out of them, you can use this defensively. Chief, one of our delightful channel members, and I have been testing that you can pop this and you can take 2 or 3 poxbursters to the face and they won't even break your toughness. So yeah, it's a good ability. Writ of Execution, during Castigator's stance, each elite or specialist kill grants plus 5% damage lasting 10 seconds, 10 max stacks. And then Blessed Armament, during Castigator stance, range kills replenish up to 10% of total ammo in your clip from your reserve, rounded up. So you can dump this point out if you want to. It's not a game changer or a build breaker. I've also dropped out Bloodlust because you're not getting as much from it as you think. But if you wanted to dump that point, you could come down here and put it into Serrated Maw. Your Cyber Mastiff applies 6 stacks of brittleness on attack. That is quite big. Especially if you're sending it against Crushers or a Monstrosity, you are literally stripping away armor from it. So it's pretty useful. And then down here into Arbites Revelatum, 15% damage for 5 seconds after a successful dodge. Into Justified Measures, plus 3% damage on a successful attack, 5 max stacks, lasts 5 seconds. Then into Hold the Line. Staggering an enemy grants 1 stack of plus 3 damage resistance on the next melee hit taken, stacking 5 times and lasting 8 seconds. Staggering non-human sized enemies grants 5 stacks. And then into Target the Weak. Enemies staggered by your melee attack take 15% more melee damage. Into the Emperor's Fist, plus 15% damage and 30% impact on your first enemy hit with each attack. And then Weight of the Lex. Gain 15% damage for 5 seconds after heavy melee attack. So we're getting a lot of melee damage from these 4 points here. And then into Zealous Dedication, 2% critical strike chance on kill, stacking 8 times, lasts 10 seconds. It's kind of, we're not a very crit heavy build. This seems to be a bit of a waste, but it would take more points to get down here. Then into Execution Order. I really love this ability. Periodically mark elites, specials, and bosses for Mercy Sanction. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 15% toughness. Your Cyber Mastiff gains 150% Cyber Mastiff damage for 8 seconds after attacking a marked enemy. You gain 15% damage and 10% attack speed for 8 seconds after killing a marked enemy. I still love how it's not just Cyber Mastiff gains damage. It gains Cyber Mastiff damage, god damn it. The best kind. And this also marks up targets really goddamn quickly. Like, there'll be 3 or 4 on the field at any moment. And especially in low light missions, this thing will basically just lead you the way. Then into Malakator. 50% cooldown reduction for 8 seconds after a marked kill, which means obviously you can use Castigator stance more. And then Keeping Protocol, killing a marked enemy grants 1% damage versus monstrosities and 1% damage resistance versus monstrosities, 30 max stacks, and lasts until the end of the mission. This is also why we're not really having to deal with the unyielding on the weapons, because we're only really using that to deal with monstrosities, and right here we are getting a permanent mission buff to be able to hurt them lots and lots and lots. So there you go, folks. The changes that have been made from this is we have gone slightly away from part of the squad into this side. We've taken a few points out from up here and pushed them more down into the forceful tree to gain us more damage. This build has been tested in Havoc, it has been tested in Damnation, and it works very, 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 very well. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please do like and subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out, and I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.